Please feel free to turn your cameras off. Um, this is creating an academic research poster using Canva. Can you go to the next slide?
Hi everyone, I am Samhar Johannes and I am a science reference and instruction librarian. My pronouns are she and her.
And I'm Jasmine Shoemaker, she, her. I am a social sciences and humanities subject librarian with reference in the library, also a colleague of Samhar's.
So an overview of this session, we're going to go over how to make a poster one-on-one, the definition, the content, the layout, the color, and the font. Then we're going to transition to talking about what is Canva, and so how to create a Canva poster. And there are two ways. You can create a Canva poster using a template, or you can create one from scratch, which is referred to as create a new design. And then we're going to end with the demo. Our goal is to have the majority of the session actually be creating a poster in the demo. So an overview of the session.
Samhar, your slides aren't advancing. We still see the title slide.
So an overview of this, so what is a poster? A academic research poster is a visual communication tool that allows you to present your research in a clear, concise graphic format. It attracts attention, conveys information clearly, and should initiate conversations and represent at any stage of the research process. Researchers often create a research poster before the completion of the research project in order to invite feedback or collaboration. The key statement of this particular slide is that at any stage of the research process, at the beginning, in the middle, at the end, 2 years after you finish, you can create an academic research poster. So there are many things you have to do before you assemble your poster. You have to create the content that goes on the poster. So write the text, gather the images, make the graphs, determine the layout of the poster, and then also determine the color and the font schemes. So in terms of the poster content, so what goes on the poster, it is extremely important that you create the content beforehand. So write the text, gather the images, make the charts, have them in a Word document or Excel file so you can copy or paste or upload into Canva. It will save you considerable amount of time and energy. Every conference, every discipline has its own requirements, what it wants on a poster, but most posters require the following stages. So a title should be professional but catchy, usually 1 to 2 lines, should be at the center of your poster, to be the most prominent text on your poster. Then the author information right underneath. This is where you put your name, the name of your faculty advisors, your collaborators, your departments, any institution. And you need to write out University of Maryland, Baltimore County, because we all know what UMBC stands for. But if you're presenting at a conference in California or somewhere else, such as upstate New York, they may not know what UMBC is. So write it out. And then an intro, abstract, or summary section. This is where you simply just write a short synopsis of your research. An objective section. This is where you state the goals of your research. So one thing that Jasmine and I are going to stress throughout this entire demo or session is that real estate amount of space you have on your poster is extremely important. And so if you have a chance to reduce the text on your poster, you should do that. And one way to do that is to use bullets. So short, descriptive sentences. A materials or method section where you describe the procedure. And again, you can use a mixture of text or images such as figures, flowcharts, or photographs. The results. Did your experiment actually work? And again, describe it using a mixture of text or images. Conclusion section. This is where, again, you state the major results, whether your hypothesis was supported, why is your research important in academia or in the industry itself, and then what's next, whether it's what's next for your research or what's next for you. A reference section. This is where you can use slightly smaller text than the other text part of your poster. In addition, if you have a long reference list, you can just list the most prominent references on your poster in the reference section. And then when people come and sort of speak to you, whoever interested on about your research, you can have in a short document the full reference list. And then you end with an acknowledgement section. You must include this. This is where you thank individuals for their contribution or funding. And this is also where you state if there's any conflict of interest or conflict of commitments. A text-heavy poster is dull and unattractive, and one that people will walk right by or hit next. And so you need to break up your text with images, and different images that you can include on your posters are the following. So photographs, diagrams, artwork, charts, graphs, etc. Image resolution of your various images should be no lower than 150. Depending upon what type of file you want to include on your poster. So if you want to use a GIF or PDF or PG, here it's listed what file is best for what type of image. In terms of the layout of your poster, the most important thing is to keep it simple. Anything complicated, anything sort of extravagant tends to make your poster look cluttered and confusing. It is important to keep the layout of your poster simple. When I say that, know that when people come and read your poster, they read it from the top left to the bottom right. That is simple. That is the accepted, normal, generally used layout of a poster. You want to group related content together. So that means you want to have your intro and then your procedure, etc. It doesn't make sense to have your intro and then your conclusion together. You want to have a good combination of images and text because a text-heavy poster looks dull and unattractive, but a heavy image poster looks light on substance. So having the right combination of images and text. And then leaving enough white space, enough negative space. So that means empty space around the border, empty space between the columns. Here's an example of a layout, a very typical layout of a poster. Top center is the title, right underneath is the author information. Top left, abstract, bottom right, references. So the flow of the poster makes sense. When somebody reads your poster, they're going to read it from the top left. So they go all the way to the left. They go from abstract down that column. Then they go to the next column. They go from the top to the bottom, and they move again from top to the bottom, and they end at the bottom right. You want to note that there's headings above each of the boxes. You want to note that there's empty space between the different sections. Here, empty space, empty columns. And you want to note again, empty space. There's an empty border, nice clean border. Here is another example, but again, same best practices. Top, the title, right underneath is the author information. Top left, abstract, this is where you start, and then you end here, references. Note how the content makes sense, the grouping. You go from abstract to introduction, then you go to the middle, which you have your methods, then the results, and then you end over here in the right hand, conclusion, acknowledgement, and references. Again, note the border, empty. Note columns. In terms of color and font, you want to keep the colors no more than 2 to 3. Anything more, it tends to look chaotic and busy. You want to keep the text fairly neutral, so keep it black. You want to keep the background colors light, because if you think about it, a dark text with a dark background, it tends to be heavy and difficult to read. And you also want to be mindful about the colors on your monitors. So that means the shade difference. The colors that you see on your computer is not necessarily the colors that will print out. And so you want, if you're on good terms with the person who's going to be printing your poster, you want to ask him or her, what shade of yellow, what shade of purple is this? Is it going to be a little bit darker or a little bit lighter when it prints? I have been burned by this myself, thinking that I have a certain certain color schemes on my poster, and then when I go to print it, it's a little bit lighter or it's a little bit darker than I expected. The recommended font sizes for the 4 different sections of your poster. Your title should be within this range. Your title needs to be the largest text on your poster. Subtitle, that's the author information. Section header, this is where you write introduction, abstract, results, conclusion, and then the body text, so the actual text for each of the various sections. This is not an exhaustive list of font styles, but the theme is that it's conservative. You don't, again, want to distract your viewers with the crazy designs, the crazy text, the crazy font style. You want to keep the focus on the actual topic, the content. Questions so far? Okay, so there are many different software that you can use to create a poster, but for this session, we're going to be talking to you about using Canva. Canva is a free-ish tool, and when I say free-ish, I mean that there are different tiers, and depending upon which tier of Canva you have access to, you have different resources available to you. We're going to talk to you about using Canva using the free version. I have here also, I just want to show off. We have a poster here on the right-hand side. This is a poster of a symposium that the library is hosting. And this symposium poster was created using Canva. So as I said, Canva is a free-ish graphic tool. It's a web-based content management and publishing resource that allows you to create various content. So you can create posters, presentations, social media posts, calendars, newsletters. And so for this session, we're going to talk to you about using it to create a poster. There are different tiers, and each tier allows you or gives you different access to resources. We're going to be using the free-ish or the free version. The free version you have access to using your UMBC email account. So once you create a Canva account and you create a Canva account again using your UMBC email address, this is what the dashboard or the front page interface looks like. And through this dashboard, you have the ability to create a poster. And as I said, there are 2 ways for you to create a poster using Canva. You can create one of the templates, or you can create one from scratch. And so the template versus creating one from scratch, and creating one from scratch is called create a new design. Jasmine will show you how to do both, but spend more time on creating a new design, so from scratch. And so if you use a template, the template is probably the easiest way, to straightforward way. But the key thing to remember when you're using a template is that it has preset dimensions. And so you cannot alter the dimensions of your poster. So if you're presenting, for instance, at ERCAD, and ERCAD requirements are 46 by 46, you can only use templates that are 46 by 46, and you can't alter them. And so creating a poster using Canva from one of the templates, it's really straightforward. You go to the dashboard. In the search box, you can search by searching by using keywords such as academic poster or research poster, and then all of the templates of an academic poster or a research poster will be brought up. But again, remember, you cannot alter the dimensions of that poster template. Okay, so from a template, then let's transition to talk about how do you create one from scratch. Again, you go to the dashboard, and then rather than searching in the search box, and here, this is where you search for a template, you go and click on, what is it called? Create a design. And then you put in the dimensions of your poster. And that's it. And so it's really straightforward. Jasmine's going to show you how to, again, to do a poster using a template and a poster using from scratch. Know that whether you use a poster from a template or using a poster from scratch, you have the ability to share that poster with other people. You can give people that option to edit or just view. You can have link in, you can embed it within social media. And this is where Jasmine takes over.
Excellent. Give me 1 second to share my screen. Share entire screen. Let's just do that. Okay. Thanks, Semhar. Thank you for that information. So we're going to get into a few different Canva poster examples before we actually do the demo of creating a poster from scratch in a template. So here is one poster that was created in Canva. Again, as Semhar mentioned, prominent information at the top, the title, the various authors and their institutions. You can put your affiliates' logos, any labs that you're working with, etc. And then again, that poster being read from the top left to the bottom right by column. This one does use boxes to organize the text along with the actual headings of each section, which I think is pretty cool. Here are a few other examples that are based off of the templates, and we'll actually show you these. I believe one of these will be in the template option available. And again, as Simhar mentioned, once you select the template, you really cannot edit the dimensions. So kind of proceed with caution if you are using those templates. Are there any questions before we jump into Canva itself? And again, feel free to answer or ask questions in the chat. I see a thumbs up. Great. Simhar will be monitoring chat while I'll be doing the demo. So we'll both kind of be tag teaming. So if you have a Canva account, you can go ahead and get signed in. It should take maybe a minute or two to sign up with just your UMBC email address, basic password, things like that. And the steps to the Canva poster that I'll be talking about today, we'll talk about the content, right? Simhar mentioned earlier, copying and pasting the content into Canva is pretty vital. Then we'll talk about the layout, how to align things, how to use your rulers, grid lines, how to set all of that up. And then changing your colors and fonts as you see fit for your poster. And keep in mind, depending on where you're presenting your poster, be it online or printing it out for ERCAD, they will have their own parameters in place. So always check with whoever you're presenting for if you have questions about how to kind of configure it. So hopefully you've all kind of found canva.com. I did put a link into chat. if you all wouldn't mind, I did create a folder here on the page, tinyurl.com/Canva box. I'll go ahead and put that link into chat. And that's a box that we have created just for this workshop that has two different sheets in it. One would be the handout of the content that we'll be using in today's session that you'll be able to copy and paste, along with the parameters for your font and your font size. So that's one sheet. And the second sheet that we have in that box is the best practices, right? So even after today, you'll kind of have a guide. Feel free to bookmark that. That'll always be there. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this. Let me get rid of some of these just so I have more room. Okay, so before we get started, I think it would be best if we download the content document. The content document looks like this. This should be downloaded somewhere on your computer if you are following along and doing this step by step with me. So I'll give everybody a few seconds to download this on their computer before we get started. So once you have this downloaded on your computer, you're kind of ready now. You have your text, as Simar mentioned, you're ready. Keep in mind on this document, there are two images. One at the page 3, small table, and then just a stock image that I kind of wanted to give you guys an example of how to position two different types of images. So again, this isn't an actual poster, it's just for an example. Let's make our way back over to Canva. And we'll do the first option, right, that we talked about. We'll do a template. So Canva.com, you'll see a search bar in the middle. We'll type in research poster just as an example, and we'll click enter. From there, you'll see a few different options. I believe this one might have been an option, some variation of this one. You'll notice that if you hover over them, you'll get, kind of a snapshot of what this looks like. However, this one that I have here is a paid one. So you would have to have a paid version of Canva to access this. However, this one actually is free. So if you are interested in using this, you might want to click on it and then you could customize it. It's also important to note that this one is landscape and 48 by 36 inches. So this is a popular size for academic posters. I believe ERCAD was 48 by 48. We'll be making one that is 48 by 36 today. So I highly recommend if you wanted to take a look at any templates available, you can do so here by typing in research poster and utilizing the filter option. So right underneath research poster templates, you'll see something that says all filters. From there, you can filter down by format, which would be the size of the poster, as well as portrait or landscape. And then scrolling further down, another thing that you should be aware of is the pay versus free. So if you only wanted to see the free version of things or free templates, you can click free and apply. So these would all be free to you as a student. Here's the other example that Senpar and I showed you earlier. Any questions about finding templates? We won't get into editing templates just because creating takes a bit more time, and I think it is worth knowing how to do that. But again, feel free to pop your questions into chat and we'll answer them. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and get started on from scratch.
Quick
So as
question,
Senpar, oh, was there a question?
Judges. Sorry to interrupt. Where
Yeah,
did
go
you
ahead,
go to
Mama.
see? Where did you go to see free versus paid template?
Yeah. So again, after we do our search for research
Okay.
poster, we'll hit all filters here,
Okay. Mhm.
and then you could scroll down to the bottom, and then under price, you should see a free versus pro.
Okay.
Do you see that?
I I can click on the filters and I can see themes and styles and formats on the left. I don't know why I don't see the pricing one, but it's all right. Oh, view more. Maybe I have to view more.
It should be all the way at the bottom, just before color.
So interesting. I don't see that. I think my last one is topic, and right after topic, it jumps to color. So it's all right. It's okay. Maybe because I'm sitting on a free version, that's why. Maybe you have
Maybe. Maybe.
you have a paid version. Maybe
I don't have a paid version, and I'm signed in with my UMBC email as well. So that's interesting.
it's all right. It's okay. It gives me enough options, the formats and print ready and all that. No problem. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Any other? Okay, I see Semhar's in the chat. Thank you, Semhar. Feel free to keep those questions coming. We'll go ahead and move on to creating a design from scratch. So as Semhar mentioned, you'll need to click this create a design. That's how you would create a new poster. From there, we're going to go down where it says start creating your media, and we'll click custom size, little box with arrows. This allows you to put in the dimensions that you want. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be creating a poster that is 48 width by 36 height. So we'll go ahead and click here, the drop down arrow, because we're hoping to find inches. We'll click IN for inches, and we'll manually type in 48 by 36. Once we have that, we're going to lock this. That just kind of keeps it in place. And then we'll click create new design. So after you do that, you'll have a blank poster that is 48 inches across and 36 inches up and down. Now it is nice to be able to name your poster right here at the top. I'll just type in workshop demo just for this. You can click anywhere off of the text and there's your title. As Semhar mentioned, it is very important to kind of have your document prepped, in a separate document, your content, images, and things like that. Semhar also mentioned that Canva allows you or requires you to upload images before you actually get started. So if we go back to our content document, page 3, you'll see 2 images. You will need to download or save those images somewhere on your computer if you're following along with this demo. If not, you're more than welcome to just view. But you can right click and save picture or save as picture and then somewhere else on your computer. So I'll give everybody maybe 10 to 12 seconds to do that. Both of these images. Okay, once you've saved those images somewhere on your computer, downloads folder, wherever you see fit, you'll click here on the right-hand side, uploads, a little arrow pointing up with a cloud, uploads, and you will need to upload your images here. So you'll click upload files, and you'll select wherever your image is, and then the image and open. So select the image and then open. So you'll need to do that for both images. You'll see them both here. Once you've uploaded them, they'll live here for as long as you need them. They will not go away until you delete them. You can see other images that I've used over, I don't know, the last couple of semesters are here as well. So you should find them here. That's when you know they've been successfully uploaded. Next.
Sorry, Jasmine. How
Okay.
did you bring it? Where did you click to bring these images in your left column here?
Yeah, they're going to be on the left-hand side. You'll see design, elements, text, brand, and uploads. I'll start from here.
Upload. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Even upload.
Uploads and then upload files. And I did see someone's comment briefly if you were wanting to save the images. You'll just click right click, save as picture, and
Thank you.
something like that. You can save it to your desktop, wherever you see fit, wherever you have space and you're comfortable with.
Does that address the question in chat about having Jasmine repeat it, the process? Or would you like Jasmine to do it again? You're good to go, Jasmine.
Thank you. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go head back. So we've uploaded our pictures. They now live here. Next, if you've been to our PowerPoint presentation, you will need to add grid lines. To add grid lines, we will go to File here at the top, View Settings, next to a little gear, and Add Guides. In Canva, they're calling grid lines guides, but Add Guides is where we need to go. From there, you will need to select Custom. This is where it gets a little tricky, so I will say what I'm going to do it, and then repeat it and allow for questions. We, underneath column and rows, this first box on each, we need 48 columns, meaning up and down, and 36 rows, meaning left to right. That will account for each inch of the poster. So it'll give squares all over the poster, and each square will be 1 inch by 1 inch. So I will now put in 48 underneath the first box and column with a 0 in gap and a 0 in margin. Next, I will do 36 in the first box under row with a 0-inch gap and a 0-inch margin. So you should have 48, 0, 0, 36, 0, 0. Once you've done that, you should see a preview of what the grid lines of your poster look like. From there, you can accept or edit. I'm fine with this. This is exactly what I want. So I will now go ahead and click Add Guides. From there, we see that our grid lines are in. And again, each square is 1 inch. It may not look like it because you're on a computer, but each square is 1 inch across and 1 inch down. You can use the sliding feature at the bottom to zoom in to get a more accurate depiction of your poster. But again, these grid lines are there to help you organize the position of your poster's text, images, and so forth. Are there questions about how I added these grid lines? Canva calls them guides.
I just want to say these steps that Jasmine is doing right now are not essential, but it is a way to help you have a more polished looking poster. So adding grid lines, adding a ruler, these are all just to make sure that when you print your poster that everything is in alignment. It is not essential though. I'm like, you could bypass this stage and just start putting content on your poster.
That's a great point, Semhar. And again, like I mentioned, it's just a way for you to help better organize the position of your text. So before we even add any text, this is something that I at least recommend to students who are using Canva, just as a way to kind of make things more appealing and succinct. So now that we have our grid lines on our poster, we can go ahead and start adding boxes. So right away, if we go back to our content document, I have parameters here of what I need on my poster, including the title, author, and subsections. I have here under color the I would like a title box that has black text. So I'm now going to go back to my poster. And as I mentioned before, like this is all just to make things better looking. Semhar mentioned using a mix of images, text. That can also be applied to your title box. So instead of just having a white background behind it, you might want to put a shape behind the title box. So to do that, you're going to go to the design, or I'm sorry, the elements button on the left side of the screen. Click elements and say you're interested in making a rectangular box. So I'm going to type in rectangle. And I'd like for this to house my title, author information, and my abstract methods section, etc. So I'm going to type in rectangle and hit enter. We are looking for a shape that would be ideal for these sections. So I'm interested in this kind of squarish rectangle thing, curved. I'm going to click once and add this to my poster. You'll notice that the shape is very, curved. You can have one that is not curved, but I'm going to use this one. Say, for instance, I'd like this color to be different. I'm going to make sure my shape is selected. Oops. And I'm going to click next to shape, the little square that says color. And I'm going to select this nice peach color one. Select orange. And let's select the orange one. That's actually really harsh. I'm going to select the peach one. And then we can resize this as we see fit. So again, if my title is going here, I need to actually make sure that I can put a title here, right? So if you double click in this text box, you should see, it might be hard to see, but you'll see a little cursor blinking. That means that your shape is ready for text. If I go back to my content document, our range for our main titles text is 80-point font to 120-point font. We can start with the 80 and work our way up if we see fit, depending on the space that we have on our poster. And I also see that our title or our font throughout will be Arial. You can change that in Canva before you even start putting in text. So if I'm ready to put in text just to copy it, I'm going to select the text next to title and copy, Control C, copy. I will now go back to Canva. And here, next to kind of where we changed the shape, you'll see font, Canva Sans. I will drop down on the left and click Arial. You can search for some of those other examples that Semhar mentioned, but we'll be using Arial. And we'll be starting with 80. So again, Arial, and we're typing in the font size 80 and clicking enter. Now, all we have to do is paste in our title, Control V. So our title is here. You can change the dimensions of where it is, narrow it. Again, each block here or square here is 1 inch by 1 inch. You can move this around and center it using the ruler at the top of the screen. You can make it longer. And again, you can center it. So you'll see, oh, I see a hand raised. Joe, do you have a question?
Yes, hi. First off, thank you for showing us how to do the guides. This is really helpful and something that I didn't know before. Um, I do have a question. So, like, when we're doing the title, um, is there any way to kind of turn the guides on and off so that we can see without the lines and then we can turn it back on when we need them?
Absolutely. So if you did want to temporarily turn off the guides or grid lines, however you want to kind of frame that, you can go to File again, View Settings, and where it says Show Rulers and Guides, you can just deselect that.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah, that's a really good point. I feel like sometimes people get a little frazzled with all the lines and it could be really overwhelming. And as Simhar mentioned, they're not required, but again, you can turn them on and off as you see fit. I like to have them on kind of as I'm doing section by section and then, turn them off as I see fit. So if you wanted to, again, put them back into place, you can then select File, View Settings, and then Show Rulers and Guides. And now they're back. So as you go through adding, section by section, um, feel free to increase the text if you are seeing a lot of white space and you're like, ooh, actually, would like to incorporate some more bigger font. You can always select all of the text that you have in a box and increase or decrease the text. Are there any questions about adding text to a shape or element? Right, that was a great question in chat. So I'm going to now add in another element underneath this. I'm going to actually skip the author section just so I want to get into actually like adding text of the poster. Let's go ahead and add in the abstract section. So I'm going to go back to the elements button here on the left. Since we recently used this rounded rectangle here, it comes up here. So you can just simply click it again and resize as you see fit. Now, adding in a section header, which would be the abstract in this case, you can see that we've already double clicked the area. The cursor is there, it's just really tiny. And we will need to adjust the font size. So you'll see on our content sheet, the section header should be between 36 and 72 point font. We will now be using 48 point font for this section. So we can go ahead, select there, type in 48 and enter. We can then go back to our document, copy abstract, and paste in abstract. So again, this might seem tiny, but it is 48 point font. You can also choose in Canva as a tool to bold your text. And then you can position it. So again, each one of these squares is 1 inch by 1 inch. The way it's currently positioned leaves 3 inches on the side of the abstract square or rectangle. Next, we're ready to add a text box for the text of our poster. So going back to the content, our body text would be between 30 and 48 point font. We'll be starting with 40, but we can always increase the font if we need to. So I'm going to go back to Canva, and right underneath the elements, you'll see a little T that says text. Click that T, and then you'll click the purple Add a Text box. It's going to be very tiny in the center. Select that. It's very small, I know. Just so you kind of know where it is, select it so it's blue. And then we'll select there, 40, enter. You can also select there and turn off the bold. Next, we're ready to add the text. So we're going to go back to our content document and add in the text next to abstract. Control C, Control V. I'm going to take a note to turn off the guide just to show you. You can position directly underneath the abstract. And again, that dotted line lets you know this is centered and aligned underneath the abstract heading. It's also important to know that you can change the alignment of the text in the box. So for instance, this is all centered currently. However, you may want to left align this text. To do so, you'll need to select the text. Up at the top, the lines kind of in a column that says alignment. You'll click there once and it will left align your text. So again, I could say, I've got, a lot of white space, after you've kind of thrown on more of your content. You could increase the text ever so slightly. Are there questions about adding text in a text box? All right. I'm going to now turn the grid lines or the guides and the ruler back on. And again, I know I did skip the author portion, but I did want to get to that text. We'll do another example of the methods section directly under the abstract. So we'll do the exact same thing. Add in a curved rectangle shape for our section that says methods. We'll go to elements, select the curved rectangle. We can resize it as we see fit. We also need to change the font size. This is something that you can consistently kind of make routine as you use Canva, to 48. Next, go back to our content document, select methods, copy it, and paste it here. You can drag and center it underneath the abstract section. So again, even though these sections don't have borders, we're kind of creating that white space as we put in more content. As another example, I'll go ahead and add in the text. Text box would be found under text, add text box. We'll go ahead and copy the text from methods first. Control C, add a text box. really tiny. Let's make it bigger. And we'll start with 40. Enter. We will take off the bold. And we will now paste our methods text Control V. Obviously, this is a bit big or long, so we will resize. And align. As an example, I will turn off the guides to show you what this looks like. And last but not least, I did want to show you how to put in an image. So say for instance, if we're going off of the example here, our images will go in the center. We will go to our uploads where we've uploaded those images. And we'll put in our images. So the first one I'll do is this kind of colorful one. We're going to select it once. And you'll notice it pops up really big. That's okay. We can resize it. And this is where your grid lines or your guides will come in handy to turn those back on to show maybe in inches how big this image is. And you can kind of count either by square or at the top using your ruler. So we may want to put it here as an example. And you could say, okay, that looks pretty aligned to me. That looks nice compared to my other options on my screen. And you could proceed with your second picture, which is this one. Again, turn off those rulers and guides to reposition to make it a little less daunting. And again, kind of positioning it to make it in the center. Oops, there we go. So I know we are at the end. Were there questions about adding shapes, text, aligning things, etc.? I did want to show you the finished product. So while I kind of pull that up, feel free to unmute with questions or put those into chat.
Jasmine, I have a question if you
Sure.
could address. What if a student realizes, or not realizes, like they use a poster for one conference and it has a certain dimension, and they want to use the same poster, make maybe slight edits at another conference, but it has slightly different dimensions? Can they go back into a custom Canva poster and change the dimensions?
You cannot. So you can only change the title and make copies of posters as the current dimensions. So if you were presenting this at a conference, and again, this poster is at 48 by 36. If you wanted to maybe reposition this for an ERCAD conference and have the dimensions 48 by 48, you cannot change that with a free account. You would need to upgrade to a pro, which is paid. Does that make sense, Sempar? Sorry, I can't see you.
Yes, it does.
Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just because I can imagine a number of students wanting to recycle a poster for what,
Definitely.
for conferences, and if it had different dimensions, what can they do in order to sort of save some time?
It is frustrating. I do think the paid account is worth it if you have the money. However, I think the free version allows you to do a lot. So this is an example of what the finished product would look like. I know that we took out, just for time's sake, the author, but here's everything in place. And again, I threw in this logo at the bottom just because we're a library doing a research workshop for you all. But this is what the finished product looks like with things repositioned. And again, I turned off those guides or grid lines. Oh, great. I'm happy you found it helpful. And again, here's it with it on. So thank you for that question, Joe, about turning on and off those grid lines. That's really useful. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. Yeah, thank you, Mona. Thank you, Shauna. This is our second time doing this workshop for Canva. This came at the request from a faculty in social work as things progress with COVID and more online presentations. I do know that Semhar mentioned the sharing options for Canva. I will reiterate that please check with your printer. Oh yeah, did you have a question? Feel free to unmute.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to have your thoughts. Does Canva offer any advantage to maybe PowerPoint, for example? I'm just wondering, I'm not really particular about anything, but I just wanted to know, get your thoughts if there is any advantage Canva offers um over PowerPoint, or what do you think?
As someone who made a poster with Semhar in Canva, I personally like Canva if you're doing collaborative work, right? So if you are working with others and, they may not be in the same vicinity as you or the same room as you even, it's a really nice tool to use to collaborate with others. I personally think that it's maybe easier to use, especially if you're using it with a PC user and a Mac user. There's a lot of configurations that are different in PowerPoint for PC users versus Mac users. Um, yeah, we'll send out the recording after this. Thank you for that question. But yeah, I personally, for those reasons alone, I prefer Canva to PowerPoint, but I know Semhar has more experience with PowerPoint, so I welcome your input too, Semhar.
Canva is more dynamic in terms of if you want to have interesting content or complicated content, such as a GIF or an animation or things along those lines, then Canva would be the software, or yeah, the software that I would recommend. I find it though a steeper learning curve. To me, it's harder to learn than PowerPoint, but again, if you're having more complicated content and you're doing collaborative work, it's worth learning how to use it. On the other hand, if you're just doing a straightforward poster and you're doing it by yourself, then I would recommend PowerPoint just because it's a lot easier to understand. And yeah, it's easier to understand, and it's just, you can be in and out.
Yay! If you have any questions about Canva, feel free to email me. I'll put my email in the chat. We'll go ahead and stop recording.